Good evening. We'd like to call this call session of the Loganville Council. It used to be the Development Authority for me, but now it's a council. And we welcome everybody on this Thursday, June 16th. And first thing of order is we've got our dignitary with us tonight, and I don't think any of you have met him before, but we have a gentleman, we got several, but one that you haven't met before is our new county manager, John Ward. John, stand up. Mike, you got a microphone for him? John, just give us whatever you want to give us about yourself.
I just wanted to stop by and say hello and introduce myself. I am John Ward. I have been with Walton County for about 2.5 months now, so I'm excited about being back in Georgia, back in the area, and really excited about working on the project that you've got before you tonight. It'll be the second municipal library that I've been able to help support and work on, and it's kind of dear to my heart because I kind of grew up going to libraries, but also my mom was a librarian for 34 years, so it's kind of a special place. My family and I moved into the area, and my wife works from home, but she works for a national conservation organization, so she travels the country working on conservation initiatives. And we brought 2 young sons, 8 and 5, with us, so we're really excited about being in the area and all the wonderful things going on in Walton County, including the one before you tonight. So.
Did you tell your wife before you left home today that you were going to get to go to the big city tonight?
I did.
Very good. Very good.
I was having coffee this morning in my Library of the Year cup that I was had shared with me, and the next thing I know, I was ready to head. I told her I'll be in Loganville tonight, so she said, "I'll see you tomorrow."
Well, we're glad to have you. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, for the council, we need a motion to accept the agenda, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda carries, and tonight we only have 2 items on the agenda, and they both are falling under Finance Human Resources, so we'll turn it over to Ann Hunsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to start with the Walton County Comprehensive Plan Resolution. Everybody's had it for about a month. It's a copy's in your packet, but Tim's going to come up and do a quick presentation about the comprehensive plan, and then what I'll be asking for is a motion to allow the mayor to sign a resolution to adopt it. Tim?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So in your packet, you'll see the resolution. I'm just going to read the first paragraph of it. So 1989, the Georgia General Assembly enacted House Bill 215, the Georgia Planning Act, which requires all local governments to prepare a comprehensive plan in accordance with the minimum planning standards and procedures promulgated by the Department of Community Affairs. We did our last comprehensive plan in 2017, and we're required by DCA to do it every 10 years, but every 5 years we have to do an update, and this is our 5-year update. So we're asking the council to adopt this comprehensive plan and give the mayor the authority to sign the resolution.
Are you already working on the revised plan for 27?
No, I am not.
Tim is going to be leaving our
I will not be here in
employment
2030.
December of 23 is the reason I was asking him. Just keep him alert.
Does anybody have any questions for Tim?
Any questions?
That being said, I'd like to ask for a motion to allow the mayor to sign the resolution for the Walton County Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right, so now we'll move to the library plan update. I believe that everybody on the council has a copy of my notes from the Finance Committee, but for those who are not on the Finance Committee, I have a kind of an agenda that I want to go through. So I'm going to go through the notes from the Finance Committee meeting, then add some additional pieces, and then open the council for discussion, Q&A, add some thoughts, and then ask for a vote and make a motion to vote. So with that being said, I don't know, Mike, can you bring the library notes up from the packet, up on the screen, just so everybody can see it, please? Thank you. All right, so the key, the city is obviously the city of Loganville, the county is Walton County. AZRLS is the Azalea Regional Library System, and the state is the Georgia Public Library Service. So going through the budget and fundraising, and there may be a couple of things that I'll change just because there might be some figures that have slightly adjusted, and the first line here is one of them. The library estimated cost $7.5 million per the feasibility study for 15,000 square feet. The county has agreed to set aside some money from impact fees. The amount has not yet been determined. Chairman Thompson mentioned in a meeting that 500 to 700,000 has been given to other libraries, but the Loganville serves a bigger population, and he asked for this to be considered during the numbers discussion. AZRLS can apply for a grant ranging between 2 and 3 million. They are going to apply for a $3 million grant. They are requesting and lobbying due to the rise in building costs. And Mr. Nate Rawl is here, along with Stacy Brown. I'm sorry, I should have introduced all of you before. The library board, Nate Rawl, who is the Georgia Public Library Facilities Director. Close enough? All right. I appreciate that. Stacy Brown is here. Lisa Luttrell is here. Dana Russell's here. The city is requesting $1.5 million from the city plus the land, plus a piece of land to put the library. The board has already agreed to raise $2 million and can vote to raise more based on the county commitment. They will build to budget and or monies raised. The city's donation is fixed at $1.5 million. The library system holds all grant funds, including the city, county, and state contributions, in a separate local construction account, which is distributed as invoices are submitted. They submit invoices to the state for reimbursement as expenditures happen. The estimate is about $426 per square foot. The land asked to the city is from 2 to 4 acres. 2.5 fits the square footage. Of course, they want as much as possible for green space for programming. The current library property. 2 parcels at O'Kelly Memorial Library total 2.7 acres. The 0.4 acre parcel between the library and 78 would revert to the property owner. Mike, can you scroll down for me a little bit? Please, thank you. The last appraisal was worth about $1.45 million, which includes the sliver near 78. The city would manage the sale and or reuse of the property and keep the funds. Regarding a letter of support and application, how to address the questions on the application. You all have a copy of the filled-in application. We got it today. It should have been on your chair. But this is some things that came up from last year when we were talking about it. And for me, the most important one was that a specific spot does not have to be named or chosen to support the application. Mr. Rawl has graciously allowed us to put downtown as a location. The funds do not have to be sitting in an account on application date. The source of funds can be reserves. And as I understand it from some documentation that Danny and I were talking about before the meeting, it looks like the money has to be transferred the date the contract is signed with the builder. The grant award is in April of 2023. The library system knows the amount granted July 1st. Upon award, 5% of the funds must be spent within 6 months. So by next December, 18 months from now, 5% of the funds must be spent, which is easily done with an architecture counts. The library system has 5 years to build the facility, and the state likes it within 3. Some additional points. The American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA, has given the city $2.4 million so far, and the city will receive another $2.4 million. These funds have been expanded to be allowed to be used for what's called government services, and a library qualifies. This means that the $1.5 million contribution does not have a direct tax implication to city residents. In other words, no raising taxes for this money. Now, I understand that when the government sends somebody $2.4 million plus $2.4 million, that somewhere we all pay for it in our taxes. However, giving $1.5 million to the library does not mean that it raises our taxes directly here in the city. The city will not have to increase the contribution based on a budget or other contributions or donations. The city has input in type and quality of building along with the county and state. This is a joint discussion with the director, city and county manager, board chair, designee, and the state. The new building and the land remains in the city's name after completion. If the money isn't spent, the land already belongs to the city. In other words, we don't lose anything by designating a spot in 18 months if for some reason it's not built. And where to build does not have to be determined for 12 to 18 months, which gives time for the downtown development director to be hired and in place to start the revitalization downtown. So that's kind of the summary of the notes that I did. There's a couple of small changes, which I read the budget number. So just a couple of additional details that I'd like to just point out. The city does not manage the building of the library. What we are being asked to do is donate $1.5 million and a piece of land. We don't manage the construction, we don't manage the subcontractors. That is not we are not under contract to the builders to build a library. We give, if we vote, $1.5 million and a piece of land, and that's it. I want to also address why we're not fixing up, or why we haven't looked at fixing up the existing library. So, the existing library obviously sits on 78 and 20, and GDOT has said that within 12 months that they're going to widen Highway 20, and that will take out probably half of the parking lot in front. So, that's the first problem. The second problem is that because it's all the state of Georgia, the state library system knows that GDOT's fixing to take half the parking lot, so they will not allow us to apply grant funds to refurbishing the building. So we don't really have an option, except we do have this option. If we want to say, thank you, state of Georgia, no $3 million, then the city could pony up the money to fix up the building. At an amount, I have no idea what that would be, but I'm pretty sure it would be more than $1.5 million. The last point I want to talk about that's been out there is, why is the library building to 15,000 when the feasibility study was talking about 24,000 square feet? And it's a very simple answer. Right now, they're raising money, and they believe they can raise money to get us to 15,000 square feet. In the future, if other funding comes available, which has nothing to do with this discussion, they have the option to expand. And I'm sure they would like to expand at some point to a bigger space. But for right now, that's why we're doing 15,000 square feet. That's why the ask is for 15,000 square, well, the ask is for 1.5 million, but that's the plan. So with that being said, I would like to open for discussion with the council and any Q&A that anybody has, and I will answer as much as I possibly can, and then I have plenty of resources out there if anybody has a question that I can't answer. Go. Come on, Melanie, I know you've got a list. Don't
Well,
be shy.
one of my questions has been answered, is who's actually applying for the grant? Whose name is going to be on this agreement, and to whom are we agreeing? Are we agreeing to the state, or is this a federal? Is there any federal money involved in this grant as well?
And correct me if I'm wrong, there's no federal money. The library does the application. The mayor and a county member signs in support, but we don't have anything to do with the application of funds to the state except for that, and it's between the library board and the state of Georgia. Okay? Yep.
What is the largest grant that's ever been awarded, and to whom? Because everything that I have read for how many ever weeks now is explicit in here. $2 million is the max, and we're talking about $3 million, so I want to know what the largest grant that's ever been awarded was, and under what circumstances that grant was given.
I don't know the who, but I know Mr. Rawl does. There has been a $3 million award. It was recent, and the state increased the amount available because construction costs are skyrocketing, and some of the other libraries could not get to the finish line with $2 million. Is that right? And Mr. Rawl?
We got
who
a
was the
mic
library?
coming for
We got a
you.
mic coming to you.
So the question was, what project got a grant? The largest amount we've given is $3 million that went to the library in Vidalia. Our rules do say $2 million. They're my rules, I wrote the rules. So because, as Councilperson Hunsinger said, construction costs have risen, we've gone to our lobbyist, and I've gone to the state librarian and said I'd like to increase that to $3 million. So we've increased it to $3 million. 2 projects in the 16 years that I've been here. We did one in Macon, and the rules were $2 million. Legislature gave them $2.5 million. So we've had 2 projects over the course of 16 years, it have been more than the 2 million.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. What will be the penalties to the city of Loganville or the library board if they are not able to complete their project within 5 years? Because this document says that this library would have to be completed within 5 years. What would be the penalty? Because there's penalties in here for everything if we don't meet the capital outlay.
Well, hang on just 1 minute. The application is between the library and the state. So any penalties that hit the state would have nothing to do with the city. If they don't meet their goals of fundraising, we get our 1.5. We actually never, as I understand it, Mr. Rowland, if you could speak to this for just a minute. If the library was unable to raise the funds and they could not get the project off the ground, you would take back the 3 million, or it would never be awarded, and we would never give our 1.5 either. Is that correct?
There's two things that can happen. One, you don't get any traction on the project, and we don't move it forward. If the state grants the funding to Azalea Regional Library System, and Azalea Regional Library System is not able to build this library, then the state would redirect those funds to another one of my projects.
But let's say they've already broken ground. We
That's
don't know
fine.
what the future, and they're going up and up. Are we gonna be left, that the city's donated a piece of property that possibly has the infrastructure and the pad? We ran out of money, including your thing, because there's a huge gap between the funds and what they're gonna need, and the estimate is already 9 months old, and by the time it gets to where you're at, it's gonna be more. And then we don't break ground, it's gonna be more. And there's a huge gap there. And I'll be honest with you, I would have felt a lot better if our library board had walked in here asking for money and they had already started their fundraising. They've yet to start their fundraising. They have raised zero money for themselves.
To be
So-
fair, this application is the first piece of the process. And if this application does not come through from the state for the 3 million, they don't need to raise any money. So why would we spend money raising money until we know we got to do it?
Well, let's say we get midstream in a project. The economy, the whole world goes bust. What is
The
gonna
whole
be the
world goes
penalty?
bust, the whole world goes bust.
Right.
There's no penalties. I can guarantee you that. I'll give that money back to the state. Period.
But they've already spent money to get to the
We've had a
point they're at.
project in the past in Canton County. We gave them $2 million. They spent $400,000, and then they canned the project. We took the $1.6 million and we reverted it to another project.
Thank you. I have another question. This would be for council. Are we going to be committed to putting this library on property that we already own? Or is it the intention of the council that you're going to buy new property to place this library on?
My intention is not to buy another piece. We have plenty to put it. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. You wouldn't buy a piece of property? Okay.
I mean, it is conceivable in the next 18 months that if a piece of property were to become available at a reasonable price, exactly like what we want, who knows what might be decided, but
Well, I mean, I
There's
agree
no
with that, but
plans.
there's no
There's no-
intention, I have no intention of buying another piece of
Yeah.
property. We have plenty.
no plans.
Somebody else ask a question while I'm flipping through
Well,
my notes.
I'd just like to say, first of all, a year ago I guess it was about a year ago when we last talked about this. I will
Wasn't
say, from my standpoint, the three things that kind of stood out outside of the need were, having a committee that will research it, putting together a plan, and evaluating the concerns, or the different options. And the third thing was finding out how we were going to fund this. And to myself, I think we've answered those three questions. So I just want to say to the committee and all that did it, I appreciate the work that you've done.
We've seen some things where people question, why would we do this at a call meeting? And I'd like to share that with you a little bit. We can't just arbitrarily make a decision that we want to put something into a meeting. We have to post the agenda, we have to advertise the agenda, and that takes time. Mr. Rawls had given us a deadline of the end of June to have these applications signed, and this was the time that we had that we could call a special council meeting to get it done. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, and I know it. I get told about them every day. I try not to read them, but I get told about them. Some of the folks out there are a heck of a lot smarter than we are, I'm thinking. None of that exists. I mean, we're just trying to get a library, and just to fill in for Ann just for a second, not only is the parking lot's going to be taken, but the highway on 20 is going to be closer to the building. They're taking away one of the entrances. It currently has two, one entrance and one exit. The state has taken one of those curb cuts away, so everybody will be coming in one way and out one way. And also, everybody going out of the library, it's a right in, a right out. There'll be a median across the road. It will not be the way it is today. And the reason for that is GDOT feels very comfortable that a median across the road is going to prevent, or down the road, is going to prevent a lot of the really scary maneuvers we make trying to get through traffic. For example, coming out Tommy Lee Fuller and taking a left. That's crazy. Coming out of Publix and taking a left onto 78. That's crazy, but they do it all day long. A couple weeks ago, I was amazed. I really was. Had a gentleman driving an 18-wheeler, and he was making a left on the 78 out of Publix driveway. And I said, give me a break. But that's just the reality that we're in. So, any more questions, Melanie?
Well, one question would be down the road, because I want to get all my numbers in order before we do this. The City of Social Circle recently did expand their library, and now their library is larger and has more functions. And as a result, I believe, Ms. Brown, you went to the Social Circle City Council and you asked them for more funding for so you could staff your library. So this keeps getting touted that this is not going to be an expense on the taxpayer. However, if the library is built, we're going to have to raise that. That will affect taxpayer dollars. So I'm just, again, the taxpayers do not want their taxes increased or any raising of the funds. And you're going to build a bigger library with more funding and more staffing problems. And as far as that, we pay for everything involved with the library, from the cutting of the grass, the water, the phone bills. We pay for everything. And you move into a larger facility that the citizens of Loganville do not feel. They feel the current library is sufficient for their needs. So now you're taxing people that do not wish to support a larger library. That's just a comment I'm going to make on that.
Well, I'd like to go back to that. First of all, the staff of the library is staffed and paid for by you, correct? Yes. And so the city does maintain the building and would agree in the future to maintain the building. And so I want to also address something that happened. Everybody, the building fell in disrepair, blah, blah, blah. And I know that's a big deal, except that from what I understand, the city handled what we knew about, and there was an issue with reporting a problem. And now any issue at the library is under a ticket system, just like everywhere else in the city, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
And
they're
just to
putting, so
clarify-
if there's a leak or there's a problem, they put in a ticket, it goes in the regular maintenance system, and it is handled. But I don't believe we pay for phones, correct?
We don't pay for internet
I have a list here
nor
of
phones.
everything we pay for.
Not internet nor phones. We pay for water, the power, we pay for that. Except for phone or internet. They have their own separate phone and separate
Right.
internet.
But we currently, you told me we give the library $133,238. What does that go towards?
That goes operation. Not only do we give it to it, but also the county gives.
Right.
I think theirs is 88,000 off the top of my head. Does that sound correct? Okay. So yes, that goes towards the operations of the library.
So can I ask Ms. Brown why she asked for more funding for staffing for the Social Circle Library if you're telling me we're not paying for staffing?
It wasn't for staffing, it was for staff, because we often will go to our cities and our counties and ask them for a funding increase. And we want to give our staff a raise because they did win Library of the Year, and they were open during COVID and were able to continue to serve the community, and they did a great job. And so that's why I went to the city to ask for more funding for the staff. Well, we
During COVID?
had curbside service in all of our libraries.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't believe, just to add on a little bit to that, I don't believe there's anything that says a library cannot come to a city and ask for more funding, but there's also not anything that says the city has to provide it.
That's exactly right, too.
I mean, that's a choice that the Social Circle Council made. That's the same choice we would have if the same thing happened here. So,
Again, I'm just pointing out things to be considered because this is a very deep project that will have far-reaching repercussions other than sitting here and saying, all we're giving is $1.5 million in a piece of land and we're out of it, because that is going to be far from the truth. And anybody to sit up here and say that is either not paying attention or they don't care to pay attention.
well, I would have to say, excuse me for that.
Yeah, I
That's a
don't
little
think
bit
that's fair.
offensive. We're giving you the facts as they're known today. And if you think that's untrue, then that's on you. That's not on us.
I guess I would liken this project to an independent project that has asked us for a donation, and we have to choose whether we say yes or no. This is not like an adult child going to build a house that you know can't budget and is going to run out of money, and you feel like you're going to have to bail them out, otherwise your grandkids won't have a roof. There is a separation. These are two separate government entities, the City of Loganville and the Azalea Regional Library System. If they don't raise the money, they're not going to break ground.
Who is going to be writing the IGA?
I did want to comment on that briefly, because Mr. Rawls, when we met via Zoom, I fired a lot of questions at you about this very thing, and he's been down this road many times, I think, and was able to answer a lot of those questions. And so some of what I hear from you, Melanie, and I just want to address that, is there is a grant application with the state. That is between the library board and the state. The city and the county will have to submit letters of intent to support from a funding perspective at the amounts listed. The contract or agreement between the library board and the state is between those two entities. And it does not have anything to do with the city of Loganville. I asked Mr. Rawls to send a sample agreement, which I believe you all have.
Right.
And if you read it, it's all between the state and the library. The state doesn't really look into what the city does or does not contribute, except for that amount. Then there would be an IGA between the city of Loganville and the library board. And Mr. Rawls was very helpful because, again, he's done this a couple times. And so when we were throwing concerns at him, many of them are what you're talking about, Melanie, because I was confused about it as well. You know, what happens if the city pledges this 1.5 million and then the library doesn't get built or something else happens? That would be a contractual agreement between the city and the library where you all could fashion remedies out of that. So let's use one of the examples that you mentioned. Let's say they start and 18 months later, the library board, not that you'll do this, but throws up their hands and is like, we're not doing this anymore. And it's a piece of city-owned property that's got half a building on it. There will be recourse built into the IGA, where the city will have the ability to go to the library board and say, okay, you need to address this. Does that make sense?
Yes, but who, are you writing our IGA, or who's writing our IGA?
Probably between me and whoever the library board's counsel is. Mr. Rawls did send an IGA, like I said, that you all have seen. I think we worked from that as a template because, well, that's actually between the state and the library board, but we would have another IGA. And you could look at, for instance, we've done IGAs with the LDA before. I have where you lend money and there are certain conditions about when that money can be brought back to the city. So for instance, if you pledge the 1.5 in the library board, you know, you put it in the bank account and something happens and it all goes defunct, we can have something in the IGA that says it immediately reverts to the city of Loganville. We also talked about certain checkpoints that we can build into the IGA as far as notification to the city. These are the invoices, I'm saying, as the library board, because they're going to have to invoice the state, right, at a monthly or quarter? Okay. Okay, so, and I believe we discussed that there would be some flexibility with that, correct? In other words, if the city felt like they needed those invoices at a certain time, y'all would be able to do that. And so you would be seeing at whatever frequency the city decided, here's what the library is doing thus far, here are the invoices that we have, here's the pro rata share that is coming from Loganville. They go through regular audits, so you would have the ability, even though you don't want the day-to-day control over what the building and that sort of thing, you would have the ability at any time to look at what is being expended, what part of the city's money is being expended and on what. And then anything that was not spent of the city's money would be returned at the end of it.
Will the council have any input in the IGA, or is this just something?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. No contract, including an IGA, can be entered into by the city of Loganville without all, the majority vote. So yes, and it's something we can go back and forth about.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Roll, the little spreadsheet breakdown I sent you yesterday with the 90-10, was that correct? The breakdown that I sent you?
Yes.
Okay. Michael, I sent you an email with a breakdown. Can you put just the little, I'm sorry, I just thought of it because I wanted to address, we had a question from the public on how the money would be spent on a $7.5 million budget and a 90-10 rule based on the square footage. There was some concern that, that there would be a 50-50 or that something would change. So as I spoke to Mr. Rawl in email yesterday, the formula for Loganville is 90-10. And as soon as this comes up, I'll kind of explain what that means.
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay, while he's pulling it up.
If we didn't approve this and the DOT is going to take the parking lot, what's the move there? What's the plan?
Boats?
Huh?
I don't know if there's anywhere else to go.
I don't know.
But there's got to be a code, right, that says you got to have so many parking spaces for a library? What's the plan?
Tim? Would they still meet their parking lot requirements with those lost to the state? Or would it be grandfather? He's right behind you, Mr. Ross.
It would be grandfathered in, but the bigger issue would be the state taking the one entrance away from them and it being a right in, right out only. That would be more detrimental than the parking places they're going to lose.
So what's the current library's plan if that were to happen and this doesn't go through? You got to have discussed it, right? You can't tell me you haven't discussed it.
Well,
Because otherwise it sounds like you're putting all your eggs in this basket. up
We
here.
have discussed it. I mean, we would just have to stay there.
With one entrance?
Yes,
I mean, there's not an option.
and make do,
I know, I just don't like
because
all
there's
putting
not
eggs in one
another option for us.
The other day, when we had the council, I asked, I'm a New Yorker, I always ask, what's the rub? Because on paper, it looks good, and you've done a great job. Melanie's got some good concerns. We have some concerned citizens that have some good concerns I think we've answered. But my gut tells me, and I like it, but something just, I think we're missing something. I can't figure it out. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just can't figure it out.
I guess
It
we
just
probably,
feels, hold on.
you're probably right. We probably do miss
I
not knowing
just-
what the future holds.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not for or against it. I just can't figure it out. It just feels
know.
like too many things have to come into place. It kind of feels, kind of like we're being pressured here a little bit. I don't know. Just want to get that out there. Is there a rub? Are we missing something, Rawls? Come on. There's always a rub.
Come up with the money, I'll give you the money and you go to the library. I've done it over 100 times.
You've done 100 libraries?
Failed project.
You've done 100?
I think 106.
Oh, damn. 106. That's a hell of a resume.
I mean,
Okay.
we just do it, man. There's no, if you don't, if DOT takes that lot,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a jam.
Right.
So you'll just be in a jam.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide you want to move forward with this, you move forward with this. The only thing, I mean, I don't see any failing. I don't see that there's a rub. I don't see there's a problem.
I think it goes a long way that you've been involved in that many. I didn't know that. I haven't really been paying much attention to all this library stuff until right now.
It's very interesting stuff.
Well, there's just a lot of back and forth. It's
There
just,
is.
until it gets down to brass tacks, it's just noise.
That's okay.
It's just griping and noise. It's just like, this is the signal. We got to get through it. So, yeah.
If I could say something right quick, I know there's a lot of variables that would go into building this library, but there's one constant, and that is DOT is gonna take the property.
Right.
They're going to redo Highway 20. We know that. They've already started land acquisition. We know it's gonna happen, and it would be, just gonna be devastating to the library when it does happen.
So there was some emails going back and forth yesterday about the per capita and the square footage and which example of funding were we on, the 50-50 or the 90-10, and it's the 90-10. So, and this is really matters more to the state than us, but since a citizen asked, I wanted to address it. So on a $7.5 million budget, the first million is paid 10% by the library and 90% by the state. The second set up to 3 million is split. So this kind of speaks, Melanie, to one of your concerns indirectly, that the idea that the library gets 3 million from the state, runs all the way through it, and oh no, we're out of 3 million, we don't have any more. That's not how it works. So they have to have 100 grand to get started, and then 2.1 and 2.1 to continue, and then they have to have additional contributions in their fundraising to get there. So we're on the 90-10 model, not the 50-50, just based on the per capita and the population from the emails flying around yesterday. I just wanted to, thanks, Michael. Anybody else have any other questions?
So let's go back to the parking real quick. Do you have plans? When's the DOT, Tim, going to take that?
It's 2023, they start the let, which means construction.
So do you have plans to work with the DOT to kind of make it a little less jammed up in there?
I've
this is-
sat in on one meeting with GDOT. Danny was also a part of that meeting, and there is no wiggle room or changing. They're pretty set with what their plan is, and
That's y'all's decision, not theirs. The land is y'all's, the building is y'all's. What they do is negotiate between them and y'all, not the library board.
I'm just wondering what we can do to help the library out.
Build a new library?
Yeah, but, okay, that's not going to happen tomorrow.
No, it's not.
No, so what are we going to do in the meantime?
There
So-
is literally nothing to
So they're just
do.
going
Not much we
to, it's
can
just going to
There'll
get
be
that
one
much
entrance,
worse to get in
right.
and out of that place?
Yep.
The state is going to take the land.
Yeah.
They're going to ask you to take the money. If you don't take the money, they will give you a check for that and condemn it. No questions asked. That's what we had that meeting back in May about.
Yeah, I was just looking out for the library, what they could do to help, because people use that library. It's really hard to get in and out now. You put construction out there, it's going to be even worse. So I was just wondering if we had a plan. No.
There is no
So
plan to
just
be
don't
done.
go library when they start construction. Just skip it.
Well,
Go
and the
to-
problem is if you put when you put a median there, I mean, it dies.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you've ever seen that happen on 78 or like on 20 up in Sugar Hill, I mean, it kills the businesses on the other side of the median. It's tough.
All right, I'm just looking out for them.
Any other questions? Okay, I want to just kind of tell you financially, since this is my committee, how I look at this. We have an opportunity to donate $1.5 million and a piece of land from funds that we didn't have to take directly from our taxpayers and get a 5-time asset back. And what I mean by that is we put in $1.5 million. For our citizens, we get $7.5 million back. So when somebody says, well, why don't you use the money for something else? Well, we can't use it for salaries, but I guess we could use it for transportation, but I promise you GDOT is not going to contribute 5 times our investment to give us something back. There is nowhere we can get a better return on $1.5 million than this project. My second point, if we move the library and we vote to do this and they build somewhere downtown, we can sell that piece of property and the current appraisal is $1.45 million. which means we recoup almost all the money back into the coffers.
Well, actually, you're probably not going to get $1.45 million for it because you just sat here and said they're going to take a large portion of it. I believe a portion of that land will go back, revert to the family. So you're probably.
0.4 acres would revert to the
Right,
family.
and then how many acres, Tim, was that how many acres would you guesstimate that to be with all the parking lot gone? What I'm saying is you're not going to be able to sell a piece of property that's 2.72 acres because they're going to take away between what we have to revert to the family and that. And we've been sitting here for years talking about what a bad location that is, so you're not going to get prime money when you've been running down a piece of property, as well as the appraisal needs that building, they're using the term as if vacant, which means they need the land to be just raw land, and so you've got the building to take down. And is that something that the taxpayers would incur that cost of removing the
No.
building so that we have a vacant piece of land to sell?
I would
And
like-
what would the total acreage be at the end of giving the land back and GDOT taking their portion?
I
Do you
think
know the
it's-
dollar, the acreage
Tim, let me
amount?
answer this. So you don't have to give the land back.
That's
I know
true.
it says here, that's the worst case scenario.
Right.
You can buy it, you can condemn it, they could give it to us. That's what we're working on. We don't know the answer to that. But you're talking 0.47 acres out of 2.7. So that's,
Plus all the GDOT
so
land
that's
that's gonna
20
go.
parking spaces. They're 19 feet long, 10 feet wide. That is less, let's just call it half an acre. So you're left with 2.2 acres. Let's just call it 2 acres. 2 acres at the corner of Highway 78 and 20. Somebody will buy that. Will it be for 1.5? Who knows? Maybe 4.5. It may be 0.5.
Even if we never sell that property, if you take the property completely out of it and it sits there, we're going to spend potentially 1.5 million and get 7.5 million back, 5 times our investment. I don't see the downside of that.
And you say it's a bad location, it is a bad location for a library.
Absolutely.
But for a business, like Jamie on the corner over there, he loves his corner. A business would go well in the corner. A lot of businesses
Correct.
look for corners. So it would be a bad fit for a library, but it could be a good fit for a business that goes there.
That's yes and no, because CVS sucks, but Tire Doc is good. So you can't throw broad statements all like that. Walgreens is good, Tire Doc's good. CVS sucks.
Why does CVS suck?
Because it just sucks. You can't get in and out of there. It's awful.
No, but
Does it
it's-
suck? Show of hands. Does it suck? Look at, boom. I win that one.
It
and let's go.
doesn't, no,
Come
no,
on.
no,
I'm
it doesn't
just-
matter. I'm just saying, a corner piece of property on how
No, I
many
get you.
millions
I'm
of
just saying
cars,
it.
it
But it's a
doesn't,
tough one. That's a tough one.
may be a
right there.
tough one.
That's a tough one.
but it's an asset.
Oh,
that
yeah,
we
I
can
agree.
sell.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Traffic counts that companies look at before they go somewhere really matter. That's one of the first questions we ever got on the Development Authority was, what's the traffic counts? And that traffic count right there being on those two pieces, that corner, would be very high. So that would
Yeah,
inflate the
yeah.
price.
It'll be a fast food by tomorrow.
And,
we all
and what
know.
is GDOT going to pay us for that piece? Do we have money? We have numbers yet? Okay.
No.
I know on a property in Sugar Hill that GDOT paid 400 grand for 6 feet of land.
Really?
So, yeah. I mean, we're going to get some money back already for that parcel for them taking that. So, anyway, does anybody else have any other questions?
I do, but wait a minute, you spoke and it threw out my head.
Okay. we can wait.
Mr. Rawls, at what point will they begin fundraising? Like, in other words, after they've gotten the grant or when they apply for the grant? When will the
That's a-
fundraising begin?
That's an Azalea Regional
That's a
Library
Stacy
System
question.
question. That's not my question.
Okay, sorry. When will the,
Lisa's chairman.
ASAP?
okay. And then the question will be, whoever would answer this, so if they vote tonight and they're saying we're going to go through it, you'll start your fundraising now? Okay.
I wouldn't think you'd start before we approve for this $3 million application, right?
Well, I'm saying.
When that's approved.
What's their fundraising
Yeah, I think
plan?
that's what she meant.
That's what I said,
Okay.
if it's voted tonight and it's approved.
But we ain't gonna vote and approve that. The state's gonna approve it.
What's your fundraising
Whatever we
plan?
do, don't mean we're
It
gonna
doesn't
get that
matter.
3
It
million.
doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter to us. Their fundraising is their fundraising.
No, I was just kind of
I
curious.
understand, but I'm getting to the point of, do
No,
they
I'm just
have to
answering
have
Jane,
their
not you.
fundraising completed before the grant is awarded? Because they have to start within six months of getting the grant
They have to
That's what I'm
spend-
trying to find.
They
I
have to
wanna know
spend
the-
5% of the grant award by the end of December next year if they get it in July. 5% is almost nothing. I assume that as soon as the application would be signed and approved by the council, you would put out a capital campaign to get as much money as possible and would continue to fundraise all the way through next year.
And as they're building and going along, you'll still be fundraising, correct?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm getting to the point of, at what point, if this begins to flounder, people aren't giving their money. We're looking at a time when people are having to choose between putting gas in their car and food on their table. I want to know, what is the time limit? There's a 5-year limit that has to be, what happens if we haven't finished the library in 5 years?
Mr. Rawls, I think you're going to have it finished before
get
5
your
years, aren't you?
I've never taken 5 years to build a library, so I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're moving into uncertain times. We don't know. We
Sure.
haven't ever built a library in today's
We
economy.
don't know if you're going to get the $3 million
Hey, we
either.
don't know if Jesus is coming back tomorrow. so-
Absolutely. So there's a whole lot of unknowns out
Right.
there, but we just got to
But
move
if
on
I am
faith.
going to sit here and be a responsible council person,
Sure.
I need to know that what happens if we don't build a library in 5 years.
But
Then you just
candidly,
don't build a library in 5 years. You get your money back, it's a done deal.
And it sits like it sits in whatever state it's in. I'm just asking a question.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no,
trying
no,
to be
no.
argumentative. I'm just trying to ask a question.
I understand, but there's no answer to that question. If we don't build a new library, then you have a library. You have a library that's in a bad location. So, you know, you just do what you got to do. I really don't have an answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
I can tell you that you're not going to owe the state any money. I can guarantee you that.
And that's another thing to put in the IGA.
Right.
You know, if they cannot fulfill their fundraising obligation, then the city gets its money back. And what you brought up is what I mentioned earlier. If they start the project and they don't finish, and you got a bunch of bricks out there, whatever it is, then we build into the agreement that they have to have something in reserve to clean it up, for instance. That's just an example of a way you could build into the agreement to safeguard against that. And Mr. Rawls, isn't there a time limit built in? I saw one, I thought, in the sample agreement with Cobb County Library. There were some time benchmarks in there of when the library has to begin the project. You like it to be completed in X amount of time.
So IRS arbitrage rules are 5% of a bond has to be spent within 5 years, or excuse me, within 180 days. And then 85% of that needs to be spent within 3 years, and the residual needs to be spent within 5 years. I push everybody for 3 years. On my agreements, I tell them 3 years.
That's what I thought I saw.
Yeah. So, I mean, I tell them 3 years. If they need 5 years, they can get 5 years. What happens in 5 years? Honestly, I don't care if it takes 10 years to build the project. What happens in 5 years, if they haven't expended all of that state bond money, that money reverts back to pay off the bond. They're 20-year general obligation bonds. So that's the somewhat sense of urgency in spending the bond funds. But if it takes them longer to build that project for whatever reason, it's not going to. But if it did, that's fine with me, as long as they spend my money and get rid of it, so we don't have any IRS arbitrage issues.
And you being the city could build something similar into your IGA.
Now, when they deposit the money all into one account, it's all commingled money. So your money, our money, the county money, is it not, is it all going to be in
The
three?
state money is reimbursed.
It's all
So
reimbursed.
no one gets that money unless we see an invoice.
and just so you know, the evaluation for CVS is 2.2 million for 1.5 acres. That's the current value. So I feel pretty good that we might be able to get our money back on that corner if we do this. Okay, if there's no more questions. The construction grant application was put in front of you, so it's here. If anybody has any questions on it, you can certainly ask. I know Mr. Rawl and Ms. Brown went through it and filled it out and gave us copies. So I'd like to make a motion that the city backs the library by donating 1.5 million, and that we authorize the mayor to sign in his spot on this construction grant application.
Second,
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Hold on, wait, I got a finger.
Yeah, sorry.
Not the middle one either. Woo.
No, not the middle one. I'd like to request an amendment to that motion, please,
Okay.
before any voting. That the city commit to donating, how you just worded it, contingent upon the negotiation of an acceptable intergovernmental agreement between the city of Loganville and the Azalea Regional Library System, if I said that correctly.
Sure.
All right, so I'd like to amend my motion,
Do
that
what
we
you
vote
said.
to donate 1.5 million, with the caveat that we have an agreed-upon IGA between the city and the Azalea Regional Library System, and we authorize the mayor to sign in his spot on this construction grant application.
Yes. One other point of clarification, how do you want to address the land?
And that we designate a spot called somewhere downtown for a space for a new library when it is time to be awarded? Is that?
Well, I guess what I'm getting to is you're also asking for a vote by the council to approve giving a piece of land or providing a piece of land on which the library would be located. Is that right?
Yes.
So if you would amend the motion to say those two things. You could
All
just
right, so
say,
Christie, just like line through everything and we'll just,
I would just say that councilperson, excuse me,
I don't care.
Hunsinger has made a motion to approve the donation of $1.5 million from the city of Loganville towards the application for a state grant to build a new library in the city of Loganville. That donation would be contingent upon the city of Loganville negotiating an agreeable intergovernmental agreement with the Azalea Regional Library System. The city further would dedicate a piece of property in the downtown area on which to put the library.
Whatever she said.
Can you live with that?
I'm perfectly fine with that.
That's my job.
Thank you, Ron.
We have a new revised motion. Can we have a second?
I'll second the revised
Thanks,
motion.
We have a second? Are you ready for a vote, Robin? Yes. Okay. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay. Motion carries 5-1. We will approve the application, and we will see where it goes. I got to tell you, in my mind, we've got 4 organizations working to try to help our city have a new library, and that does not happen too often. It's very seldom that the state comes to us and says you need $3 million to do something. Fairly rare. Fairly rare that we in the county, although we do a lot of joint projects, that they jump in and support this as well. But we'll just see how it goes. And, for those of you worried about the future, understand, we don't know either. Nobody knows. But you can't plan your life unless you're ready to go up there, that today is your last day. We're going to just
You know, we had a lot of back and forth from the original pitch that Stacy gave a year ago. We get a lot of emails, a lot of good emails from some, concerned citizens. I really would think Ann deserves a lot of credit for handling them. It's not easy when you're getting all these numbers and all this mice typing these documents, but I got to say, I'm public safety. That's easy. These guys carry the ball down the field and hand it to me. I bring it in here across the goal line. But finance that Ann handles, and then this, I got to tell you, I've been doing this a long time. I'm very impressed. And that doesn't mean like we're best buddies, but I'm impressed with your hard work. No. But seriously, I got to give credit where credit is due. She's worked really hard, because if you've seen these emails, it's like, oh my God.
Is that the first time you've been impressed with Ann over the last 6 years?
Not answering that question.
No comment. I didn't think so. That'd be fine. Can we have a motion to adjourn, please? Yes, ma'am. Say it. I would hope so. Okay. Robin, is that all you have to say? Okay. So we have a motion to adjourn. We have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we'll go into community feedback. Those of you that would like to speak, I'm sorry? I know, I'm going to though. We're going to do it special deal tonight. If there's folks that need to speak, that's okay. You'll have 3 minutes. And who will be first? Wendy, did you have your hand raised? I got to have a mic. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We want everybody to hear.
Okay, I was just going to give a little peace of mind, not that I'm for or against anything, because it doesn't matter what I think. But I am a project manager over 15,000 to 18,000 square foot buildings across the U.S., and we're for profit, obviously, so we want to turn and burn and get these buildings up and running as quick as possible, right? So I don't know who the architect is, I don't know who the contractor is, I don't know who the project manager is going to be, but we build in less than a year and a half. And I have 10 on my plate right now at different phases of construction, nonstop, has not slowed down even a little bit. If nothing else, I have sped up. We have more and more coming, so I think we're going to be okay.
So the fact that you do not know what the future holds is not slowing your company down from building,
Absolutely not.
okay? We have anyone else? Greg, we got Tim.
I just want to say on behalf of the library board, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we got gentleman right here in the back. Yes, sir.
And while I was listening to all the talk here, a couple things came to my mind. Talking about the maintenance of the building, where the city is maintaining the current library as it is, so it's already a budgeted item. Could the cost go up? Yeah, possibly, but it's already a budgeted item, so it's already there.
It could go down because it's a new building too.
True, and that was the other point. If we stay where we are, then there's going to be continued money put into the old building constantly. So it's a lose-lose when you do that if you stay there, which I really hope that we don't have to.
Good point, thank you. Okay,
I just want to say thank you. My name is Robin Dill, and I have been a patron of the library since we moved to Loganville in 2002, and recently I've started volunteering and am one of the ladies that reads the stories to the kids on Thursday morning. And a library in a community is a vital asset. Families look for those kind of things, and the comments that were on the Facebook feeds about libraries being no longer valid, that's kind of an ignorant statement. Families love to bring their kids. People like to use the library. It's a quiet place to study. We have lots of college students that my son-in-law used the library when he was studying for his PT boards. It is an asset in so many ways. Thank you, City of Loganville, for your vision, and thank you for supporting a well-needed project.
thank you. We have one young lady here. Gotta have, good
Hi,
job.
my name is Kathy Swanson, and I live on Lee Bird Road. I'm a big library supporter, always been, always used it, my kids used it. I'm not for the library right now. We're in a recession, the economy is sinking, and for you to say, this is only gonna cost us $1.5 million in a piece of land. Well, you could sell that piece of land and put that money into the coffers, and maybe you could upgrade this building, maybe you could do some things for the citizens, because the bottom line is, we are the taxpayers, and shame on every one of you that said yay to this. We elected you to do what we want, not what you want, what we the taxpayers want. And the majority say no, we don't want this right now. Maybe in 5 years, okay, but right now, no. Are you gonna go out and spend $1 million on a house that you've never seen? You don't know what it looks like? No. Why would you think that we want you to do that with our money? And this is our money. I'm insulted, Ann, when you say the library current maintenance is, being taken care of, blah, blah, blah. That insults me. Who has not taken care of our current library? Who is responsible? I've been asking this for a year and a half. Who is responsible for taking care of the library? Is it a committee? Is it a certain person? If it's a certain person and they're still employed, have they been held accountable for this? I mean, come on. You think this is a joke? This is our money you're spending. And I'm honestly disgusted by all of you that are approving this right now. It's just pathetic. And for you to sit there, Skip, and for you to sit there and be these smirky little comments insults me even more. You are in charge of the city of Loganville. You are responsible for the.
I guess
Listen
we'll
to
have
me.
to agree to
You
be
don't need to
insulted.
say anything, but you are responsible for the taxpayers
And
that
I
elected you.
accept that responsibility. I don't know where you come up with the fact that everybody in Loganville, nobody wants it, because
Well,
you've
the
heard different here
majority, the
tonight.
majority don't want it.
I don't know where you get that, but it's your time. You go ahead and take your time.
You know what?
Kathy? Well, hold on just a minute, please. When I said blah, 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 and it came out of my mouth, I don't know if you go back and look on the YouTube, that probably didn't sound very good, and I agree with you, it's a poor choice of words. My purpose in what I was trying to say was, there was an issue with maintenance a year and a half ago with the information not getting to the right people. Whose problem was it? Honestly, I don't know. Because I wasn't there reporting. Please let me finish. I wasn't there knowing who reported, who didn't report. What I can tell you now is I can't fix what happened with a roof leak. What we did fix was put in a ticket system to deal with the possibility in the future on a new library that it wouldn't happen again. That is the very best I can do in my role, is to try to fix something moving forward and not let it happen again. Second thing, I am a citizen too. It is also my money, and it's also everybody's up here's money. I am not spending $1.5 million of my money or your money or any of our taxpayer money. It's ARPA funds. But you're giving property that we own that is our money that we decide to sell it. We are letting the library put a library in a piece of property that we own. But you said, why don't we just sell what we've got? If we did that, where would the library go? Wait, why?
No, we didn't. Ma'am, we didn't raise your taxes. Okay. Okay. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They didn't do the rollback. They didn't increase the millage rate. If you want to blame somebody from the library, my name's Daniel Roberts. I'm the city manager. I run the city. When the library tells me something's wrong, we fix it.
That's right.
So don't sit here and tell me that we ignore it, because I'm the man here. Let me talk. Let me talk. Hey, no. I'll let you talk. Let me talk. Well, I can tell you. I can listen. Let me talk. Thanks. Okay. When the library told me it was wrong, we went over and fixed it. Point blank. Period. End of it. There's nothing else. When they tell us something's wrong, we fix it. Period. So don't sit here and say we don't fix it.
Well, obviously it's in derelict condition. Somebody didn't fix it.
Have you been in there? Okay, well, maybe you should go look at it before you say something, because it's fixed. We replaced all the lighting. We fixed the roof. When we made known of it on Memorial Day, on a Saturday, I called the facilities director and said, make sure Monday morning you go over there and spend your time fixing that. Period. It's a city building. And when you say we're not doing nothing for the city, for the citizens, this is a library for the citizens, for the children. That's what you got to remember. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean the other 13,000 residents doesn't like it. Okay. Vote? They did. They elected these people. That's the vote. These people make the decisions. They were elected by the citizens. Because they don't like
If you
something
go to my
did.
website, Loganville Strong, which has not changed since the day I was elected, it says I support a library.
And you got one vote, and that's what all of us have, is one vote. I don't even have any vote. But anyway.
Anyway.
3 minutes is up. We ready to move to the next? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Fields, and I'm not in support of a new library. I think the old library was just fine in the location it was at. If just needed a different entrance on 78, and more people would have gone to it. My complaint is it was hard to get in and out of with only one entrance. I think you've maintained the old library, put a new entrance going on in 78, and that library would have been just fine for another 5 years, another 10 years, because if what they say is going to happen within the next 3 months, 6 months, a new library is not what people's going to be going to. They're just not. They're going to be in the homes with their families and trying to figure out how to support food on their table and how to put a roof over their heads. That's what they're going to be worried about.
That's your opinion. Come on, you just
Well, it
can't
is,
make
but
a
an
broad
old library where it
You just
is
can't
could have
do
been
that.
maintained in a new entrance, and that would have been just fine for a temporary.
Hey, Bill.
And we understand,
could
and
we-
it is going to be fine for a temporary, because at the very earliest, it's going to be 3 years before this is built.
So the state will not allow us to have
That's
another
right.
access off of
On
78 because
78.
of proximity to the red light. So there's why we can't have another access.
We thank you for that.
Hi, I'm Dana Seeger. I am a resident of Loganville, and I thank you for agreeing to build a new library for Loganville. I am also the manager of the Walnut Grove Library, and we service Loganville patrons every day, 6 days a week at our library. So thank you.
Hey, anyone else? Okay,
Oh, Town Green tomorrow night. Get here early. It's gonna be a big crowd.
we got one more.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
I've got a question. My name is Mark Kane. Loganville's going to be the landlord for this property, correct? If you own the property, you own the building, what is the liability for everything inside that building? We had the lightning hit the air condition here, okay? If that building has any structural fires, damages, anything while they're there, is there going to be an agreement between the city and the library of who's liable for everything inside that library? Or is the city going to be liable?
It's a city building, so the city carries insurance. I imagine y'all carry contents. Yeah. So it's similar to a landlord kind of agreement, I would imagine.
But that's all going to be in writing?
Yeah, it's all in writing now.
Okay, well, that's what I was just.
Absolutely.
Well, I
That's
mean,
a
you
good
answered my
question.
part about the maintenance and all that stuff.
Yep.
But my question was the liability to the city.
That's a good question.
So, I mean, that's just,
Thanks, Mark.
most people don't think about.
Anyone else?
Figure out where we're gonna put it.
Yep.
Okay, with that said, meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being here tonight.